Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1555, Spoofing James Bond. What's that all about? You're posting Spoofing James Bond? Huh? Oh, let me tell you a little story. So my newsletter today has just gone out. Was in the process of going out in batches because there's so many people it's going to. But if you want to be on the list, please go to beforedirtnapnewsletter.com and you will make it onto the list for today's batch going out. It's dated the 3rd of November. So that's gone out. And of course, it's all about James Bond this week. And we've got James Bond genealogy tips. We've got James Bond living your best life now. We've got a James Bond themed travel tips. It's all in there, including, Tim, I forgot to bring it in here, including the book of the week, which I actually had to take off the shelf and take a picture of because Amazon did not have the final cover as on the sorry, my dog is playing with her stick. She's trying to get it. You know how when dogs want to attack something or get another dog to play, they dive at them, and that's what she was doing with her chew stick. I don't know. But she's been so good today. A little side story. I had episodes this morning where I was a little on the feisty side today. I wasn't quite clued into the day. The head wasn't very clear. Little things were annoying me and that sort of stuff. And at one point she gets off the recliner back there. She comes over to me. She sits down here next to me, puts her paw up on my leg and goes, And I just turned at her and she kind of had her ears turned back a little bit like scratch. I figured out that's a scratch sign. So I scratched her ears and that, and I suddenly just went, just released everything. It was awesome. So she did very well today. Anyway, back to James Bond and spoofing. So in I have seen all the James Bond movies, like all 25 movies from the Eon Productions, which is the James Bond franchise. I have seen Never Say Never Again, which is the movie Sean Connery did that they did as a remake of Thunderball. And there is a story behind that we will talk about when we get there. And even how it got its name, how it got the name Never Say Never Again. And if you've ever stayed to read the credits, you will know. But then there was this movie that came out in 1967 called Casino Royale, and it had David Niven as Sir James Bond. It also had Peter Sellers in there, Orson Welles, and Ursula Andress. And if you didn't know who Ursula Andress is, she is the James Bond girl from Dr. No. And so... yes, it's very interesting. And we got to meet a character in this movie that's called Mata Bonds, as in the daughter of Mata Hari and James Bond. So that was in the Casino Royale. Now, what Casino Royale from 1967 is, it is very different from the 2002 version. Whoops, hang on. I think it was 2006. Hang on. 2006. A little James Bond notebook here. It's very different from the 2006 movie that they created with Daniel Craig. This one is 1967. Like I said, David Niven is Sir James Bond. And Sir James Bond has retired, but his name and 00 license has been given to another guy that's played by Peter Sellers, and he's also known as James Bond 007. And he works for MI6 because they had to keep the persona of James Bond alive, so it would put fear into those, because James Bond had a reputation in the spy community. So this was a way that they were able to keep it in there. And if you don't know who Peter Sellers is, but you've seen Pink Panther movies, he is one that plays the detective in the Pink Panther movies. Very, very talented actor. He was all of these people are very talented. But the Casino Royale from 1967 is a spoof. It is a spoof of the James Bond movies. And at that point, when it came out in 1967, there'd only been 4 James Bond movies. There'd been Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, which we're watching tonight, and Thunderball. And they actually had references to those movies in the spoof. Now, if you don't know what a spoof is just taking the mickey out of the spy movies. It has a storyline that you can follow, but then it does all this weird and wonderful, wacky things, and they can do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. And if you've ever seen Blazing Saddles and the closing scenes when they start having the fight where the good people of the town are fighting off the bad guys that want to take over the town, and it spills over into the Hollywood studios and all of that sort of thing. go back to 1967 to Casino Royale with David Niven, and the ending is kind of similar to that. Maybe where they got the idea from for the closing scene of Blazing Saddles. But you got to see all sorts of people. Like at one point, I had to pause it and go back. Oh damn it, his name's gone from me right now, but I can see his face so clearly. He was the guy that played the man from U.N.C.L.E. and went on to play Ducky in NCIS, who passed away just recently. You see a screenshot of him. I have to tell you, I couldn't stop laughing. I watched, what did we watch last night? We watched From Russia with Love last night, and that was awesome. And then I thought, I haven't watched this one yet. For some reason, I just kept putting it off. I thought, we're going to watch it. So we watched it, and it was hilarious. It's made in 1967, so you have to take into account the time that this was made, and what was happening in the world at the time it was made. And it's like I said in the newsletter today, I'll get to that in a minute. But it was just really fun. It just basically, if you've ever seen Hot Shots or Top Gun, no, not Top Gun, Hot Shots, Top Secret with Val Kilmer in it, Top Secret, Hot Shots, even Airplane. They're all spoof movies. So that'll give you some idea of what this one from 1967. It's a little on the silly side, which is good because sometimes you just need a little silly in your life just to help create that laughter and just break out and, just help you relax and get away from the day-to-day routines, get away from things that have been worrying you, and just sit and watch a spoof movie and all is good in the world again. But I have to say, it was pretty cool. But they had Mata Bond, who was the daughter of Mata Hari and James Bond. And then who else did we get to meet in that one? And then you got to meet Jimmy Bond, who was the nephew of James Bond, who, he was played by Woody Allen. Who else was in there? I kept thinking Diana Riggs was in there, but she wasn't. It was one that played Mata Bond that I thought was Diana Riggs, but it was another actress. But she wasn't in that one. But in the movies, they made references to the other movies. Like there's one room, they've got this James Bond there, and this 00 agent who they want to name as James Bond, and they're training him to resist the power of women, the power of the female, of the female psyche and all of that, and how they're talking about how the females can get under the men's psyche, under the men's skin and all this sort of thing, and get them off track. And so in his training session, he has to resist females, which is absolutely hilarious. So the first person that comes up to him is a woman who is wearing the bikini with the large knife on the side that you see Ursula Andress' character from Dr. No coming out of the surf wearing. So that was a tribute to that one. Later on, you see in the makeup room, they're putting the gold paint onto these two models there for their scene as a salute to Goldfinger, which I get to see tonight. And in that one, they have the girl in there who dies from skin suffocation because it's got all this gold paint on there, so the skin can't breathe. And even in the movie, they talk about that, even with Vegas dancers and things, that they have to leave a patch of skin, usually at the small of their back area, that's unpainted so the skin can still breathe. They can't wear the paint for any length of time. So they had that in there. What did they have for the Russia one? Oh, for the Russia one, they had the Russian guy from the KGB who David Niven's talking about, how he did things the old way, and there's all this new stuff going on, and he's got somebody from the CIA there. There's somebody from British intelligence. There's somebody from the KGB, and I can't remember where the fourth guy was from. But the KGB guy goes to sit down, and his shoes are rattling with all the bits and pieces and the gadgets that are hidden in his shoes, including the knife that comes out of the toe, which you see him from Russia with Love. So they had these little things along the way that were tributes to the 4 James Bond movies that had already been released before the spoof came out. But it was very enjoyable, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. What was the other thing I was going to come back to? I need to start writing notes down again. But I like to say it was a good one. Tonight we're watching Goldfinger. When did that one come out? That came out in 1960. Goldfinger came out in 1964. And this is one where you get to see Honor Blackman, who plays Pussy Galore. And oh, yes, that's what I was going to say. So in the newsletter today, I talk about that, how I know of, and if you know of a movie franchise that has done this, then please let me know. But if you look at James Bond, their first movie came out of the franchise. Their first movie came out in 1962. The last one was released in 2021. It was supposed to be released in 2020, but because of COVID, it got pushed out to 2021. So in that 59 years span from when the movie first movie came out to when the last movie came out, that covered basically 60 years. And you're talking 60 years of fashion, 60 years of fads that were going on at the time. There was the music. There's 60 years of technology changes, 60 years of, I've said the fashion. What else did I have in there? Hang on, what did I put in there? That you could and I know of no other franchise that does this. So if you know of a franchise, so we put there, you've got the action, the location, the stunts, the gadgets, the chases that are in there. But as far as I know, it is the only movie franchise that I can think of where you can track the changes in fashion, fads, technology, cinematography, special effects, stunts, even music, political changes, and all of that in 25 movies over the course of 60 years. So you think about that. That's, and I'm like looking at these changes and going, oh, this is really cool. And then having to think back to the technology of what they had around at the time. Could they do that? Could they not do that? What could they do at that time? And it just shows how time has changed through these movies. And I know of no other movie franchise around that has had movies released over a 60-year span where you get to see these changes throughout the movies because of how they filmed the movie, where they filmed the movie, the storylines, and things like that too, because some of the storylines come from things that were in the headlines at the time or things that were moving at the time and that sort of stuff. So it's a very good way to kind of track history in a way. So think about those things. So think about that when you watch a James Bond movie that, 25 movies over 60 years, and they've seen fashion changes, even the types of cars that they drive, music, different fads that were going on, different political stuff. What else was there? The changes in cinematography. When you see what they've done now, what they're doing now with what they did back then. You've got stunts that have changed over the years as people have got bolder and experienced more, and they've got more safety features, different ways of doing things. So the stunts have evolved as well. The cinematography, I've already said that one. So you think about that. You've got this series of 25 movies over 60 years that follow all of these different trends that have taken place over the time and have been through different parts of history and stuff. And there's been, stuff from history that have been written into these movies. So I know of no other movie franchise that has done that. If you know of one, please let me know because I would love to explore. But these ones, you can think of things like people go, oh, but what about Star Wars? Yeah, Star Wars is all sci-fi. I totally get that. And they went back and they kind of redid the first three original movies that came out to add extra things in because they now had the technology to put those extra scenes in. They haven't done that with James Bond movies. They're timeless. They're classics. So if you know of another franchise that has done anything like that, please let me know because I would love to check it out and do that. So anyway, so that's it. We're going to go watch. Actually, we're going to go do dinner first. We're thinking of going out for dinner, but we don't know what we want. What do we want for dinner tonight, Zeph? Oh, you're over this side. What do you want for dinner tonight? Huh? You don't know either. Okay. We're going to go and figure out what we're going to do for dinner. We're either stay in or go and grab something. And then we're going to be sitting down and watching Goldfinger. I love Goldfinger. It's one of my favorite Bond movies. But anyway, go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. And let us know if you've seen David Niven's Casino Royale that came out in 1967. And if you want a real good hint on how to watch them, if you are an Amazon Prime member, all the James Bond movies, which were released by MGM, Amazon owns MGM. All the James Bond movies are available on Amazon Prime Videos for free as part of your Prime membership. So if you're wanting to catch up with us and join us in watching the James Bond movies this month, we're up to Goldfinger today. That's day 3, so the third movie to come out. Then you can go watch them on Amazon Prime and you'll be able to catch up with us and keep along with us and things like that too. So go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. I have to remember because on Sunday I go to 7 p.m. my time, but it's still going to be 6 p.m. Pacific. I just don't want to confuse people. So go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. Hakonara. Do, do, do.